From the PEP Radio Newsroom, this is the News Blast for this hour. LGBTQ Nation is reporting that on Thursday, Children's Hospital in Los Angeles announced the pausing of its transgender youth health care program, citing insurmountable pressure from the Trump administration. In emails reviewed by the Los Angeles Times, the hospital's Center for Trans Youth began telling its nearly 3,000 patients' families about its upcoming closure. "We're just disappointed and scared and enraged," stated Maxine, the mother of a current patient who declined to give her last name for fear of attacks on her son. "The challenge is how we break news to this kid who has had such positive experience with everybody at Children's." The emails state there was no viable alternative that would allow the hospital to continue specialized care. "There is no doubt that this is a painful and significant change to our organization and a challenge to CHLA's mission, vision, and values," hospital executives wrote to staff in a Thursday morning email. The center will close on July 22nd, and the emails say the decision follows a lengthy and thorough assessment of the increasingly severe impacts of federal administrative actions and proposed policies. Executives have determined that continuing to operate the center would jeopardize the hospital's ability to care for its hundreds of thousands of patients, noting the continual attacks by federal agencies, including the Department of Justice, Health and Human Services, Medicare and Medicaid Services, who have been issuing numerous threats towards doctors and hospitals providing gender-affirming care for trans youth, including threats of prosecution. "These threats are no longer theoretical," the note said. "Taken together, the Attorney General memo, HHS review, and the recent solicitation of tips from the FBI to report hospitals and providers of gender-affirming care strongly signal this administration's intent to take swift and decisive action, both criminal and civil, against any entity it views as being in violation of the executive order." The hospital's Trans Youth Center is among the oldest and largest programs in the country and the only facility to provide puberty blockers and other gender-affirming care for trans youth on public insurance. But because the hospital is significantly more reliant on public funding than other pediatric medical facilities in California, it is particularly vulnerable to the actions and defunding threats of the Trump administration. The severity is exacerbated even more when taking into account that 40% of pediatric beds in Los Angeles are at this hospital. CHLA has a responsibility to navigate this complex and uncertain regulatory environment in a way that allows us to remain open as much as possible for as many as possible, executives wrote. "In the end, this painful and difficult decision was driven by the need to safeguard CHLA's ability to operate amid significant external pressures beyond our control." This isn't the first time this year, however, that CHLA has announced that it will no longer provide gender-affirming services. On February 4th, CHLA declared that it would stop providing hormonal therapy to transgender people under 19 in the wake of President Trump's executive order threatening to cut funding from hospitals treating trans patients under 19. This decision was met with protests as hundreds gathered outside the Children's Hospital in East Hollywood. The hospital reversed its decision a few weeks later, when a federal judge issued a preliminary injunction blocking Trump's executive order. After that, Attorney General Rob Bonta issued a statement saying the hospital's cancellation of gender-affirming care violated the state's equal protection laws. This is commentary. So unlike Pennsylvania, California's Attorney General stands up for all Californians. Unfortunately, Pennsylvania Attorney General Dave Sunday would never defend transgender or non-binary youth because we do not have the same equal protection laws in Pennsylvania. We do not have equal rights here. We must continue to raise examples such as these to our state legislators to protect our rights. Furthermore, we call on Governor Josh Shapiro to speak louder and for the people in the back that the LGBTQ plus community stands united to protect our rights. He should too. That's the News Blast at this hour. If you're watching our videos on YouTube, please subscribe to the PEP Radio channel. Download the Live 365 app to take PEP Radio with you wherever you go. Up next, we have the Meadville area weather forecast here on PEP Radio.